Good evening. Welcome to WSBI, your resource for success podcast program, where you get to meet inspiring women-owned businesses from across the country. And now, for your host, Kimberly McElmore.
All right. Hello, and welcome to another night of sharing. With us, we have Jennifer Bryant, the executive president and founder of Reaching Within, an empowerment journey. So, welcome, Jennifer. How are you doing this evening?
I am doing awesome. Thanks for asking. Hoping that you are well.
I am well. It always busy, but doing great. You know, I guess if I wasn't busy, I'd be complaining, right? So, it's usually how that works, right? Oh. Hello.
Yes, I'm still here.
All right. You went on hold just for a second, but that's okay. We got you. All right. Okay. So anyway, like I said, welcome to the show. And what I would like to do is just have you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I've been in the public sector for 30 years and as a senior manager now, an executive of administrative services. That's what I do during the day. But along those lines, I also am able to follow my passion, which is to mentor and coach people. So I am a certified coach of and a motivational speaker of Reaching Within an Empowerment Journey. And I go around and I help people overcome personal and professional challenges so they can show up at work as their best selves. And every day I'm faced with different people from different walks of life, whether it's in the public sector or during my private time. And I help people to find the power within themselves to overcome their challenges.
All right. Wow. That was a great overview and synopsis of who you are and what you do publicly during the day and, of course, with your business. But why don't we backtrack just a little bit? Tell me more about who you are personally and where you're from, how you got started into the business world that you're in, obviously during the day, and then how you transitioned into starting your own business.
Okay, I'm glad that you asked me that. So how my journey in life has not been easy, and what I mean by that, I lost my dad when I was 5 years old, and then my mom raised us on her own, my brother and myself on her own, and as such, I left home about the age of 17. And I went on my own, and I had to have my own survival skills and have high emotional intelligence to kind of navigate through life. And absent having a dad there, in terms of having what is meant by a role model or having a male role model wasn't really there for me. So I had to limp along to figure that out. So along the way, I entered into two bad abusive relationships, and I was able to escape those. And as I navigated through life, it was quite challenging. I was blessed to enter into the public sector, as we talked about, and I always talk about attitude matters, because I got my first government job based on a conversation that took place on a subway. Wow. And I had no idea that this woman that was talking to me 30 years ago was part of a personnel office. We were having general conversation. Next thing you know, I was leaving off the subway. She asked me where was I going, and I said to a job fair, and she told me her name, and she said, "Don't go any further, you are hired." And from that day,
wow.
I knew that my life had been ordered, God had ordered my steps. And so as such, as I mentioned previously, that I had to overcome two abusive relationships. In the midst of that, I also was taking care of my mom who was suffering from bipolar. And it was it was tough because I lost a lot of sleep, but that didn't stop me from pursuing my career. While I was navigating the judicial systems in the health systems of getting her care, while I was also trying to survive domestic violence situation, I still pursued my professional aspirations as well as academic aspirations. So every 2 years or so in the federal government, I would move. I would get promoted. My positive attitude took me very far. And I actually was blessed to get most of my graduate degree, as well as all of my graduate degree, plus my executive leadership certificate, all paid for through the federal government. So I've received leadership certificates, awards, Trailblazer awards for my work in the community, as well as civil rights and liberties initiatives that I've pushed forward.
Okay.
So I've walked the walk and I've talked the talk. And along the way, in terms of that, my experience in the federal government helped as a launch pad to help in my personal life in terms of my business, reaching within an empowerment journey to help others. And right now it's about me giving back to others. It's not about me. It's about them and helping others to achieve. And I have seen some remarkable things happen in people's lives.
I bet you have, but I want to kind of backtrack a little bit. You talked in the beginning about losing your father, and do you believe in that with that scenario of losing your father? And I want to say I'm sorry to hear the loss of your father all those many years ago, but do you believe that that was a part of reason of your inspiration of who you are today?
That was part of it, but I would go even a little further with that.
Mm-hmm.
And let me share this with you. So I mentioned how, okay, my mom had to raise my brother and myself.
Right.
She raised us on a 5th grade education.
Wow.
So when she moved from South Carolina to DC to elope with my dad, she was from that generation, where the men took care of everything. And so she was a housewife. So not only did she have a 5th grade education, she was unemployed. And she had 2 children that she had to take care of, a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old. And watching her navigate through the various challenges that she had to overcome, that motivated me to such a greater extent.
Right.
And I strived really hard, and I said, you know what? I do want to get my education. I know how hard it is to be in this world without education.
Exactly.
And she did a wonderful job. And then also part of my inspiration was, and it sort of is it is a sad story, but it serves as my inspiration. 8 years ago or 9 years ago, I lost my mom suddenly. Wow. And then my only sibling, suddenly at 49.
Wow.
So
goodness. You have definitely been through a lot.
And I'm the only one standing here from that nuclear family.
Right.
And so that served as an inspiration, as God left me here for a reason. And it's not for my own, it's for me to be a change agent, not only for my 2 teenage daughters, but to help those who are in need. And we show up at work not so much as our true authentic self, and we are carrying a lot of baggage when we come to work. I explained to you, 2-time domestic violence survivor. I went to work with sleepless nights. I went to work trying to care for my mom who was bipolar. And so I'm helping people say, come to me. I'm a safe place. you can talk to me about your personal and professional challenges that
Mm-hmm.
you're going through, and I'll provide you and equip you with the tools to make it. But the first things first, you got to have self-love. And that's what I
Exactly.
talk a lot about, is that affirmation and self-love.
And I agree with you. And, listening, further into your story, I definitely understand the domestic violence piece. I was in a previous relationship many years ago, and actually wrote a memoir on that, and the journey I went through that and coming out of that, and teaching women how important it is to stop looking in that rearview mirror and realizing that you are worth so much more. But like you said, if they don't have that self-identity and that self-love, you can't move forward. And that's the thing that I'm listening to you. Everything that you have been challenged with in your life, you have not looked back at all. You have consistently looked forward, and then to take everything that you've gone through and teach others that journey does not have to stand still. It can continue to move forward. I think that you are absolutely a blessing. And I am so sorry to hear about all the loss within your family, because to sit here and know that every person that you've ever loved is gone, that's a hard thing to get up every day and have to deal with alone. On top of all the other things that you've been through. So you are absolutely inspiration to your family, your daughters. I'm sure that they look at you every day and wonder, how do you do it?
They do. And they've made comments about, Mom, you are so strong. And the other piece of this is, which I didn't share, is 3 years ago, I divorced after a 18-year marriage.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
After an
My
18-year
goodness.
marriage. Yep. Once I start discovering who I was, who I am, once I start learning what my self-love was all about, I needed and wanted better, not only for myself, but for my children, because it's important for children to see that the true sense of love.
Absolutely.
The true sense.
Absolutely. Because a lot of times we stay in relationships all for the wrong reasons, because you believe that's what love is. But like you said, that self-identity is what truly helps you understand how to grow. And then once you get that eye-awakening moment, oh my goodness, it's like, you're overwhelmed, but you're also appreciated to realize that this is who I truly am. And you know that you can continue to move forward in life in a better light. And I absolutely believe that kids are very resilient. And they're only resilient, though, when they know the truth.
Absolutely. And so my story is about stepping into your truth and becoming resilient. And you've used that word over and over again. And I believe that the only way that you can help others is that you have had to have undergone it or went through it yourself. And to instill in people that you can make it to the other side. Trust me, because I am a living, walking testimony.
Yep. Amen to that one. Absolutely.
And let me tell you, I may stand here today or talk to you today with such grace and poise and calmness in my voice. But understand, life wasn't always about that. I had my breaking point where I went into a deep depression, where it felt like I was in an abyss, in a hole that was so dark. And the only person that was there was me. And I had no one to reach up and grab me. Right. That was a tough time in my life. And I went through that for 2 years. And it was something, I call it a functional depressed person.
Right.
I was in robotic state for 2 years.
Right. Because I think a part of that, and I get what you're saying, because a part of that, you had to start looking at the journey of everything that you've been through. And it's better not to function that way. But then once you realize, like you said, when you have that personal awakening, you start to realize that this is, I've dealt with all these things. And sometimes people lean so much on you that they expect you to have that high standard expectation of everything is perfect. And then you realize that there is nobody else to lean on but God. And then once you understand that door is open for you and he's always been there, I believe that weight is truly taken off your shoulders. But I do believe you have to go through that process before you can come through the other side. You can't shine on the other side.
And you know where my greatest success came from? It came from me showing up as my true authentic self. Even
Absolutely.
in my professional life, um, uh, as a federal employee,
Mm-hmm.
I've looked at other executives and was like, okay, that's who I'll model myself behind. It seems like they're being accepted or whatever, but that
Right.
wasn't working. That was not working for me.
Right. Because it
Once
wasn't
I
you. Mm-hmm.
wasn't me. What it wasn't me,
Mm-hmm.
and it started. Things start coming into motion for me all the way around in my professional and personal life.
Mm-hmm.
When I showed up as my true authentic self.
Right. Right. Because like I said, the door was open. It's just you finally made a decision to walk through it and realize that is not who I am. The path is already here for me. I just need to take it. And, you know, like I said, with all the tragedy you have, I mean, you can't sit here and say that you had to have gone through that in order to truly understand who you were. And like I said, and like we talked about all the resiliency that, you know, of who you are, that's wonderful to have that resilient part, but it's so much more. And now that you've discovered that and all the journeys that you've gone through in life and you're still here to talk about it, tell me more about how you effectively work with your clientele.
Okay, so how I effectively work with them. One is I try to do a 15 to 30-minute consultation with them to find out a little bit more. There's a series of questions that I ask them to find out more about what they're trying to gain, what their goals are, career goals and aspirations. I have them to break it down in chunks, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to see if they have that together. And then we could talk about 2 to 3 to 5 year goals. But I have them to break it down so it doesn't appear so overwhelming. And
Right.
then I let them talk through to ask me questions about what will it take for them to get to whatever job that they're trying to get to, whatever professional career field that they're trying to get to. Um, and what I've discovered in my discussions with clients is that there may be some personal things that is um, delaying them from moving forward professionally.
Right.
and and part of that is helping them to have that self discovery, that self actualization to say, okay, these are the things that I need to work on. I
Mm-hmm.
don't tell them that. It's through
Mm-hmm.
that exchange of conversations, my coaching questions. And by the way, I don't know if I mentioned, I'm a certified coach as
Yes, you
well.
did. Mm-hmm.
So I have
Mm-hmm.
certification. So
Mm-hmm.
so I help them to come up with their answer. And part of that is if I tell you everything you need to do, you might not have accountability and ownership. But if we work
Exactly.
together as a partner to solve and come up with resolutions, you own it more. And
Right.
then I set up time to follow up with you.
Mm-hmm.
And as part of the follow up, you know, you have your homework. And so when we talk again, you're telling me some of the steps that you've put in place.
Right. And I like the partnership aspect because I honestly believe that most people know really truly know what the problem is, but like you said, if they don't own it and you tell them everything, they're never going to really learn how to move forward and you know and do the things that they say they want to do because they're still hanging on that rear view mirror, you know. And so I definitely like your partnership aspect of your business, and I think that's absolutely an effective way to work with people is that teaching them to understand that they are that 90% of the time we're our own problems is really what it boils down to. And I think that once you do discover that, it makes it easier to work to move forward. And then having somebody like you professionally teaching us saying, hey, this is where you need to reach into and this is how we're going to get there and we're going to work on it together. So I absolutely love your business and the style and the format that you laid out is I think is very acceptable in the world that we live in today because we have so many people who have got so much baggage that they're carrying and then a lot more pressure standing on top of that baggage. And it's like, how do you get through all of that? What do I need to do in order to be happier and all that. And I think talking some of those things out and working and having a plan laid out, like we always say, it's one thing to talk about it, but if you don't do anything about it, it means nothing. And, you're just gratifying and thinking, oh, this is the way it's going to be, but it means nothing if you don't act on it. So definitely like that plan you have.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So tell me a little bit more about the business side and maybe what challenges have you faced and how long have you actually been in the business?
So, whenever I get this question, I always am like, how do I answer this question? Because it's not as straightforward as one would think. So
right.
when people say, how long have you been in the business? Well, on paper, in terms of my registered business, it's been over a year and a half.
Right.
Now, if you ask me how much experience do I have, that's a different question. I have over 20 plus years of leadership experience, career development experience.
Right.
So that's how I look at that question. And in terms of challenges, and a lot of people may not talk about this, but this area is saturated with coaches, life coaches. Like you could be a coach without having a certification.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely.
So it's having your brand to stand out. It is knowing what your target market is and having your niche, doing your research, and being humble enough to say, I need help. Can you help me? Study your leaders in the market, whether it be your guys, like, because I'm a motivational speaker too, Eric Thomas,
right.
Study him, study whomever you need to study, read books too, that's in your field, and don't care about what people may think about you. As long as you're confident and you know what you're doing and you feel like you're credible, take risk. You go out there and you develop your SWOT analysis, and which is a business term,
exactly.
the strength, the weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in your field, in your industry. That would help you to be able to overcome your challenges. And people who you've seen successful, hey, call them up, drop them an email, take a risk. They may not even respond to you, but at least throw it out there. Say, hey, can we chat for 15 minutes? It's worked for me. Some people responded, some people didn't. But I wanted to know, what best practices are you putting out there?
Right.
So I've been doing a lot of speaking engagements to become visible. And I post a lot on social media, Facebook, my Facebook group, LinkedIn, Instagram. And I got really excited the other day. You should have been the fly on the wall, or should I say, you should have been the passenger in the car. I was in Georgia, and I'm hanging out with my girlfriend, and I say, girl, guess what just happened? She's like, what? I said, Kim Coles just liked my post. She just liked my post on Instagram. She was like, what? And I was like, yeah, she likes my post. You remember Kim Coles? You remember the facts of life? You remember the comedian?
Yes.
So she started laughing. She hits my arm and she was like, you go, girl, you go. And I was really excited about that, because what she liked, she got my message. And if I could describe this any clear to you, or try to be clear about this, is that I have this logo, and if people were to go to my website, and eventually I guess we'll get there, but if people go to my website, they will see this logo that I have that represents reaching within an empowerment journey. And there's a figure of a person, non-gender, and the person is reaching with hands inside of their body, and there's a path, a road that goes down to the middle to their heart. And what that symbolizes to me in terms of overcoming challenges is you have the power within yourself, once you're given the necessary tools to
Yep.
walk and come down that journey of life, and in the end, you will be just like me, because what my quote that I say all the time to people is live your life unashamed, unapologetic, and confidently.
Amen to that one. Absolutely. I loved everything you just talked about. I mean, you went from explaining a little bit about what you think a challenge is all the way into this amazing good advice about being in business and what it takes in order to, talking to people, looking up mentoring, doing your researching. All these things are great aspects of understanding what it means to run a business, because it's one thing to be the expertise in your field, but there's so many other pieces that come with that process. And I think that's a very important piece to understand about being in business. So the way you wrapped all that up into, boy, I'm telling you, if you're listening and if you're truly listening, you got some good golden nuggets that you just threw out that everybody needs to understand about being in business. And the excitement about what you do is phenomenal. I can hear it in your voice and your tone.
Oh my God, it is my passion. You have no idea. And here's my other little secret too, in terms of challenge, is having working capital. And
amen.
I don't have. So look, you may think this funny, but I'm telling you, I keeps it all the way real.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of me going out there selling chicken and fish dinners, I was selling my T-shirts with my logo on it, and I was hitting the street, and I was taking pictures, and people were so supportive. They were buying my T-shirts, and they had my logo in the front, and in the back it had regaining your power with my website. And I have a collage of pictures of people from all across the U.S. who has ordered pictures. My shirts.
Right.
And I also had someone from Sydney, Australia.
Wow.
With a shirt in the picture, and that's the picture that Kim Coles liked. She liked the
is amazing
collage that I had that represented reaching within. Mm-hmm.
But you know what? And I'm not laughing at you. I think it's phenomenal that, like I said, you have that spirit. You are that person who truly knows what they want, and you're doing it. And that's the blessing, and that's the good part about it. You're not out here begging and asking. Not that there's anything wrong with us, asking for help when it comes to the financial side of it. But you're right. You have to have the capital to do the things that you need to do. And, I always stress with people, you don't get up and just walk off your job and just say, well, I'm going to go out here and do it. And that's fine if you can afford to do that and you have prepared to do that. But you definitely need to have a plan in place. And, whatever that plan may be, it will work as long as you have the drive and the will and the grit to want to work hard enough to get to where you need to get to. And that's what you're doing. So I am definitely not laughing. I think you should absolutely be patting yourself on the back every day for your accomplishments.
Thank you so very much, because, you bring up another challenge. If you're working a full-time job, a parent, you're trying to have relationships with your friends, with, dating, whatever it may be, and you have your different community events that you're doing, fitting in time to do your business can become a challenge. So if you dedicate at least 2 hours a day, whether you wake up an hour earlier than you are to go to your full-time job and do an hour later in the evening, or you just tack on 2 hours later each day, but you're putting that focus and dedicated time. But rest assured, you should not step away from making sure you take care of yourself. And I throw in my massages, I throw in a facial, I throw in, walks, whatever it takes to get you back centered.
Right. Because it's a part of your being your self-identity, understanding and realizing that if you don't take care of yourself, how can you take care of somebody else, right? Correct. So absolutely. So you definitely hit everything on the head. And like I said, you put out some great, as I call them, golden nuggets, and actually stole that term from somebody else. I heard it and it's like, oh, that's a really great term, golden nuggets, because there's so many things that you can learn from people who are in business. Like we had talked a little bit earlier before we actually got on to the show, that, I try to make people understand that what people see from us is usually just about the shell. And so having this opportunity to come out and really give people the true story of what we go through and understanding how we began to where we are at today, and how we're continuing to our journeys being business owners, and of course being small business owners and women-owned businesses. It's just something that sharing these resources and having that understanding of what it takes to be as a business owner, I think, is a fabulous piece of who we are. And that's what I love about this show and what I do, is that giving people that opportunity to understand our stories and realize that there's somebody out there that's going to absolutely connect with you and say, you know what, this is me. I'm in that same place, in that position right now. And to know that, like you said, you're not alone. There are absolutely people out here who do this every day. And the one thing I want to tell the listeners is that, one thing we're going to do is right now is we're going to find out how to get a hold of Miss Jennifer Bryant.
Okay. So I didn't know if you were going to have a follow-on statement.
No, I was going to get there, but I was like, you know what? We need to get this part in there because we're absolutely getting closer to the end of the show, but I want to make sure that they know how to reach out to you. So if people do have information, if they just want to reach out and say hello, or they do need your assistance, we absolutely need to know how to get a hold of you, right?
Okay, no problem. So my website is www.reachingwithinempowerment.com. So that's reaching, REACHING, within, WITHIN, empowerment, EMPOWERMENT.com. And my phone number is 301-535-0358. And then my email is reachingwithin2017@gmail.com. And I'm also on Instagram as Reaching Within, and LinkedIn as Reaching Within as well. And feel free to contact me. There's a form on my website that if you want to set up a consultation, it's ready, and I will respond back as soon as I'm able.
All right. Well, I do want to say thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. I know you're very busy, and I really appreciate the opportunity. And like I said, you have done a phenomenal job, sharing your story and providing those great golden nuggets for those who are very interested in learning more about business or just needing assistance. Please reach out to Jennifer Bryant. She is phenomenal, and I think that she is the right person for you. So like I said, again, thank you. And for those out here listening, just want to let you all know that we are here every week, every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. So until next time, you all have a phenomenal evening.
Good night, everyone. We will be back next Thursday evening at 7 p.m. Follow us on Spreaker, www.spreaker.com/user/WSBI. View our new WSBI website anytime at www.wsbillc.com and on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram.